then shall be born, of proud descent from Troy, one Caesar, to bound his lordship by ocean's outer stream, and his fame by the starry sky. A Julius, bearing a name inherited from Aeneas, his great ancestor. One day you shall welcome to heaven with peace in your heart this Julius, coming weighted with the spoils of the Orient. And he also shall invoke to listen to prayers. Then shall our furious centuries lay down their warring arms, and shall grow kind. Silver-haired Fidelity, Vesta, and Quirine Romulus, with his brother Remus at his side, shall make the laws. And the terrible iron-constricted gates of war shall shut, and safe within them shall stay the godless and ghastly lust of blood, propped on his pitiless piled armory, and still roaring from gory mouth, but held fast by 100 chains of bronze knotted behind his back.
So he prophesied, and he sent Maia's son Mercury down from heaven. For the land of Africa, and Carthage itself, with its newly built defenses, were to stand open to receive the Trojans as guests, and Dido must not forbid them her territory through ignorance of the ordained plan. So, oared by his wings, Mercury flew, striking out across the broad sky, and swiftly he was there, standing on the coast of Africa. He obeyed his instructions, and at his divine will, the Carthaginians put from them all thoughts of hostility. Especially he inspired their queen with a tolerance for the Trojans and a kindly intent. Meanwhile, Aeneas the True, after a night spent in thought, decided to walk out in the freshness of the dawn to investigate this new country, and to see on what coast the wind had driven him, and what creatures lived there, whether men or wild animals. For he had noticed that the land was uncultivated. He could then report precisely to his comrades. He left the ships concealed under the tree's mysterious shade, enclosed by the wooded headlands and overhung by the cliff. He stepped out, accompanied by a chattis alone, carrying 2 hunting spears with broad iron heads quivering in his hand. Under the trees, his mother met him. She had a maiden's countenance and a maiden's guise, and carried a maiden's weapons, like some Spartan girl, or like Harpalyce, the Thracian who outrun horses till they tire, and outstrips even the winged river Hebrus. Slung ready on her shoulder, she carried a bow as a huntress would, and she had let her hair stream in the wind. Her tunic's flowing folds were caught up and tied, and her knees were bare. She spoke first. "Ho there, young sirs! Do you happen to have seen one of my sisters, wearing a quiver and a cloak of spotted lynx skin, wandering about here, or shouting hard on the track of some foam-flecked boar? If so, tell me where." So said Venus, and her son started to answer her.
"No, I've neither seen nor heard any sister of yours, young lady. Only, how am I to speak of you? You have not the countenance of humankind, and your voice has no tones of mortality. Goddess, for a goddess surely you must be, not Apollo's own sister, or one who is kin to the nymphs. Oh, I entreat your favor, whoever you may be, and some relief in our tribulation. Pray tell us under what skies we stand, and where on the world's shores we have been cast. A violent hurricane with its giant waves has driven us hither, and here we now stray, not knowing where we are or who are the inhabitants. If you tell us, we shall offer many victims to you, to fall dead before your altars.
And Venus answered, I am not one to claim any such honor as that. It is the usual habit of Carthaginian maids to carry a quiver and to wear these high-laced hunting boots of dark red. The country which you see is ruled by Phoenicians from Tyre, and Agenor's dynasty reigns in their city. But around them is Africa, and no war can subjugate Africans. Queen Dido, who directs the councils of our state, came here from Tyre, wishing to escape her brother. It is a long and intricate tale of wrong, but I shall trace for you the main events of the story. Dido was married to Sychaeus, who was the greatest landowner of all Phoenicians, and to her sorrow, she loved him ardently. She had been a maid when her father gave her to him. Her union with him was her first marriage. She had a brother, Pygmalion, who then occupied the throne at Tyre, and he was a monster of unmatched wickedness. A murderous quarrel broke out between the princes. Pygmalion was so blind with lust for gold that he lay in wait for Sychaeus at a holy rite, caught him off his guard, and sacrilegiously struck him down with dagger thrust. But he forgot to fear the power of his sister's love. For long Pygmalion concealed his deed, giving Dido false reasons for hope, and with many cruel pretenses, preluding her heartsick anxiety. Then, while she slept, the actual scepter of Sychaeus, who was yet unburied, raised before her eyes a face weirdly pale. The wraith revealed the brutal deed at the sacrifice, showed the dagger wounds in his breast, and disclosed the whole wicked secret of the palace. And he pressed her to leave her homeland and flee in haste. To help her on her journey, he told her where there lay in the earth a long-buried and forgotten treasure of gold and silver in great weight. Shocked by the vision, Dido began to prepare for flight and to gather for her company any who savagely hated or sharply feared the evil king. They assembled, hastily seized some ships which happened to be ready for sailing, and loaded them with the gold. The miserly Pygmalion lost his hoard, for it was conveyed over the ocean, and the whole enterprise was led by a woman. So they reached this place, where you can already see the towering battlements of a new city, Carthage, and its citadel even now being built. They bought as much land as they could enclose within a bull's hide, and this land is still called the Hide after that event. But tell me, who are you? From what country do you come, and whither do you voyage? In answer to her questions, Aeneas spoke with a deep sigh out of his very heart.
Lady divine, If I were to start at the beginning, and then continue all the chronicle of our ordeals, and if there were the time for you to hear, the star of evening would surely close heaven's gate, and set the day to sleep before the end. From ancient Troy, if that name has ever chanced to come to your ears, we had been sailing over many strange seas, and then of its own caprice, the storm drove us on Africa's coast. I am Aeneas, called the True, and I carry with me in my ships the gods of our home, rescued from the foe. Before the sky my fame is known, and I quest for Italy, the land where my family first sprang from supreme Jove. Following my allotted destiny, and shown my way by my divine mother, I sailed forth into the Phrygian sea with 20 ships. Scarce 7 survive, rested from the easterly wind and from the waves. And here I wander, in want, unknown, about Africa's wilderness, driven first from Asia and now from Europe too.
But Venus would not listen to more complaints from him, and she interrupted his lament. Whoever you think you are, they who dwell in heaven can scarcely hate you, I think. You still breathe and live, and you have reached the city of the Tyrians. Continue on this path till you come to the doorway of the queen's palace. For I can tell you that the winds, veering to the north, have reversed their direction. Your ships have been driven to safety, and your comrades have returned to you. If not, then my parents made false claims, and the lessons in prophecy which they gave me have been failures. Look at those 12 swans, gaily in line. Jupiter's eagle had swooped down from the heights of air and was just now pursuing them across the whole breadth of the sky. And yet you can now see some of the swans alighting on their long ranks on the ground, and others looking down from air to earth, where some have already settled. As these swans, now wearing their wings in play, have come safely home, while others flock and freely circle, trumpeting in the zenith, so too some of your ships with their Trojan crews are safe in harbor, while others with bellying sails are drawing near to the haven's mouth. So just continue your walk, and go ahead where the way leads you. So Venus spoke, and as she turned away, her loveliness shone. A tint of rose glowed on her neck, and a scent of heaven breathed from the divine hair of her head. Her gown trailed down to her feet. Her gait alone proved her a goddess. Aeneas recognized his mother, and as she vanished, his cry followed swiftly after.
Ah, you too are cruel. Why again and again deceive your own son with your mocking disguises? Why may I not join hand to hand, hear you in frankness, and speak to you in return?
As he reproached her, thus he stepped out towards the city walls. For her part, Venus fenced the 2 Trojans with a thick mist, enveloping them by her divine power with a mantle of dense cloud, so that no one might notice or touch them, hinder them, or ask them why they had come. And Venus herself departed, soaring high in the air to Paphos. Joyously she returned to her own home, where stands her temple and its 100 altars, ever warm with the incense of Sheba, and where unceasingly a perfume is breathed from garlands of freshly gathered flowers. Meanwhile, Trojans hurried along their way, guided by the path. They were now climbing a massive hill, which overhung the city and commanded a view of the citadel. Aeneas looked wonderingly at the solid structures, springing up where there had been once only African huts, and at the gates, the turmoil and the paved streets. The Tyrians were hurrying about busily, some tracing a line for the walls and manhandling stones up the slopes, as they strained to build their citadel, and others sighting some building and marking its outline by plowing a furrow. And they were making choice of laws, of officers of state, and of counselors to command their respect. At one spot they were excavating the harbor, and at another a party was laying out an area for the deep foundations of a theater. They were also hewing from quarries mighty pillars to stand tall and handsome beside the stage which was still to be built. It was like the work which keeps the bees hard at their tasks about the flowering countryside, as the sun shines in the calm of early summer. They escort their new generation, now full grown, into the open air, or squeezed clear honey into bulging cells, packing them with sweet nectar, or else take overloads brought by their foragers, or sometimes form up to drive a flock of lazy drones from their farmstead. All is a ferment of activity, and the scent of honey rises with the perfume of thyme. Aeneas looked up at the buildings.
Ah, fortunate people,
He exclaimed.
for your city walls are already rising.
He walked on, miraculously protected by the cloud, right through the multitudes, mingling among the Carthaginians, but noticed by none. In the heart of the city, there was a group of trees giving a wealth of shade. Here, the Phoenicians, while they were still shaken after the stormy voyage, had dug from the earth a symbol whose discovery Juno, in her queenly knowledge, had predicted. It was the head of a spirited horse, and it indicated that the nation would have distinction in war and a plentiful livelihood through centuries to come. At this spot, Dido the Phoenician was beginning to build a vast and sumptuous temple for Juno. Inside it, the dedicated offerings were magnificent. The goddess's powerful presence could be felt. Bronzen were the raised thresholds, which the stairways led. Bronze clamped beams, and of bronze were the doors which made the hinges groan. Here, among the trees, a strange experience met Aeneas. For the first time, his fears were allayed. For the first time, he dared to hope for life and to feel some confidence in spite of his distress. For as, while waiting for the queen, he inspected everything which there was to see under the mighty temple roof, in wonder at the city's prosperity, the competitive skill of the craftsmen, and the great scale of their tasks. He pictured there the Trojan War, or all the battles round Ilium in their correct order. For their fame had already spread the world,